Hey guys, it's Saturday, April 30th. I had some advice from R Restorations, Russ. They're using some tape to mark where I'm going to cut to make it easier. So I'm going to do that. But first, I'm going to make it a little easier too. I've seen a lot of guys using these portable work stands. So I picked one up from Harbor Freight, so I'm going to put that together and get it set up, put tape on. Got my panel all taped here. This is about a inch wide tape. I think the package said 0.94. So I didn't really measure, I just kind of somewhat lined it up with the edge. Same on both sides. If you remember on the car, the rough trimming I did was 1 1/4, so it should leave plenty of room to etch onto the car. And I'm planning on cutting it with this cutoff wheel, and I'm going to wear all this PPE here. I have my rear seat panel here, it's just sitting here, trimmed the edges like I showed before. Just showing the fit here. It's a little difficult to get it in place, but you can see kind of what I'm doing here is this is going to come over here, and then I'll just have to weld it in all the way up the sides, around and over here, and then the rest of it will be all the new panel, and then the same thing over here. However, it's difficult to get it in place because this has to go underneath this. So what I'm going to do now is trim out some of this under seat panel. I have my new one here. See how that goes. So it comes up to the seatbelt hole right here. So what I think I'm going to do is somewhere in this area go ahead and trim just out to about here, and then all the way down the side. Not all the way up to the edge, because I don't really want to get into that joint in there, but that seam. I had cut out here on both sides to give me room to get this panel up under there. However, I'm still having issues getting it to fit down behind this tunnel for the drive shaft. So what I'm going to do is make a cut this way, cut around this way, and then cut over here, and then save that piece, and then after I get this installed I can put that piece back in. Okay, now I can seat the rear panel back in here and kind of see where everything lines up. So after I get this installed I can put this back in. But anyway, what I'm working with here now is this side. I can get this to line up pretty easy. Get that to line up, and then up here it lines up pretty good. So I can get that side to work pretty good, but I'm having issues with this side, the passenger side. If I get this lined up, then this up here is, when I push it in, it's way off. So I'm gonna have to try to clamp this in place and see what I've got. Got the panel sheet metal screwed in. These self-drilling, lights messing that up. Self-drilling screws, which helped a lot to pull it down to the frame rail. So you can see it's fitting a lot better than it was before. Up here it kind of looks a little funky, but I think I can trim this piece underneath and kind of form it to where it'll work out. Same thing over here, looks pretty good. I'm just gonna mark and trim it some more. So I started down here by lining these up on both sides, and then putting some screws in on both sides, and then kind of working my way up. putting it through the frame rail, and then put some screws up here. And then for these right here that go across, that hook to this pan, this brace right here, I went underneath the car and used a smaller drill bit than the screws to drill from underneath and pop all the way through, and then that way from the top side I knew where to drill them through. So now what I'm going to do is mark on the back side, outline the frame rails, and then also this brace from the bottom, from underneath. That way I can mark where I want to drill the plug weld holes into this the sheet metal here. I had traced on here, it's hard to see, but I used a black Sharpie on a black panel, but I can see it good enough. Now I'm going to grind these edges where I use the self-tapping screws through, because they'll raise the sheet metal up off of the when I mount it. And I'm also going to do the same thing to the car. And then I'm going to go ahead and start drilling the plug weld holes in here. And I already trimmed up some of this where I marked, so I'll bring you back. I've got the panel fitted up here. I can show you some of the, I guess, as my father-in-law would say, rookie mistakes that I've made. Some of these 3/8 plug weld holes that I made are not quite lined up with the center of the frame rails. So I marked with a marker where it should be. So I've got a couple of them like that. It's kind of hard to see. Where it's kind of on the radius of the frame rail and it's not fitting, you know, perfectly flush or flat on the frame rail. So I'm going to fix some of that next time I take this panel off. Some other mistakes. Right here, this gap's a little big. Here, the rest of this side isn't too bad. And then I cut this out. Big gap there. Then this other side actually is worse than that side, but it's got a pretty big gap. As a shut your face garage, or Matt would say, gotta leave room for the weld. So I'm gonna have to use some filler rod like Mr. Fireman 164 or Roger does a lot of the time to fill this gap right here. So that's gonna be it for this video. Next video I'm gonna work on cleaning up the surfaces, maybe getting it in primer for the next video. So see you guys next time. If you see anything that I could do differently to make this easier, I do know I probably should have, I'm guessing I should have mounted this first and then made my cut lines. But anyway, if you have any suggestions or anything, please let me know. See you guys next time.